everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the As You Are podcast. My name is Leslie Vandergans. I'm the founder of ENSO Coaching and Consulting, and I'm here with two of our amazing coaches, Kathleen and Adam, and our special guest of honor, Sumedha Ganjoo, the CEO and founder of Quimby. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Better
Good.
Now that I'm here in this beautiful space with you all.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so Sumedha, we met about a year ago, a little over a year ago at the Austin, what was it, Startup Week?
Yes.
And we sat on a panel for mental wellness in the workplace.
Yes.
And I was kind of representing the, HR coaching space, and you were kind of talking a little bit about your company, which is part of the reason why we invited you here. We were really amazed with what you're doing with Quimby and thought maybe you could tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing over there.
Happy to. Yeah, and thank you for having me. So we met at Austin Startup Week 2022. Mm-hmm. We were both on the panel at the time. And even now, like Quimby has been a mission very close to my heart. So the mission with Quimby is to help people live out their intentions. There's no right or wrong way to live life. But most of the time, we're reacting to life instead of intentionally creating the life we want. A lot of times, we don't even name what our intention is. So it started from purely being a product company where at the time, at least, we were focused on companies and teams and building resilient psychological safety, at the same time, emotional intelligence. Like it's always been a very inside-out approach. Mm. And today we do the same thing with an addition of professional services, coaching, as well as team building workshops, specifically working with founders or anybody who understands the idea of inside out or wants to understand it, and how much power we hold as humans, like the unlimited potential we have if we let go of the limited beliefs and are truly willing to train our mind and emotions and step up to the person we can be, our best self, and then create from that place.
Oh my
Whether
gosh.
It's in a team setting or an individual setting.
How important is that? Like, I can't imagine the power that companies would have if they could really harness all of that. That's just amazing. So can you talk a little bit about like what are some of the results that you've seen with the work that Quimby is doing in
Absolutely.
these companies?
It depends on where the focus is, whether teams, individuals. So I'll speak a little bit to the different results. For teams, we notice like 80% of people sign up. Over half, 50% would say it helps them with managing stress. 75% feel more connected to the teams. But really, what fills my heart is the anecdotes that I hear. Whether it's someone saying like, this check-in, because Quimby has a check-in which helps you track morale, but it plugs into your productivity tools. This check-in data I'm taking to my therapist because I've been told I have bipolar diagnosis, but now I actually have data to show. Whether it's that, all the way to somebody just saying, I didn't realize how much the stuff with my parents is impacting me during work hours. And I was projecting that onto other people. And someone telling us that the discussions they had through Quimby, like data as well as the facilitated conversations, he's like, I've never had that in a work setting. It's like group therapy, but in a work setting. Mm-hmm. So creating that safety for people to truly just be and learn has been one of the most fulfilling things. And then on the individual end, this like I do this because it's very close to my heart. So I was like, the founders that have been coaching, it's really great to see the results because they're transformed people. And when they are transformed people, it impacts their employees and their relationship and people. Like it has even a bigger ripple effect. So an example is one of the people, bootstrap company. So think $2 to $5 million, 20 employees. And so he's been able to create a lot, right? Without even these tools. So I don't want to put like, this is what is required to create. But then you can create something wonderful. And then at the end of it, go like, I don't feel happy. Mm-hmm. What's the next thing that's going to make me happy? Or you can do it in a way where you're enjoying yourself. You are creating the life that you want. You're living the life that you want. And at the end of it, go and look at what a beautiful creation I have.
Yeah.
Like he is transformed so much in his relationships. And like, this is one of the people I'm coaching in, like that other people who are around him are asking him what is he doing because he's so different. Like literally I'm getting invites from places because he's different. And it's not me doing the work, it's him doing the work.
100%.
Like
right.
one of the statements that really stood out to me, like when your mindset opens up, in one of our coaching calls, he went, I'm not playing it, like he didn't hit his milestones. And he's like, typically I would have, if I didn't hit my targets, typically I would have started stressing out, probably taken it out on my relationships. Like I've literally broken up with people. But instead, this time, I just feel at ease. And I know I'm not playing the $2.5 million game. I'm playing a $25 million game. And this peace and this content is helping me see that. And I feel good. And I'm so proud of my employees for all of that they were able to do. So that was such a big transformation that his employees see too. So what I love is like when you work with individuals, founders, leaders, and I'm sure you all know this, it has a ripple effect.
Yeah.
It doesn't just stop there.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking a lot about, again, seeking that joy or that happiness or that comfort. And, so many times I think we as humans look externally for what that validation is, at least, from a young age, right? Like that's kind of the thing that we seek to get the validation. And if we don't have anything that triggers us to pivot from external validation to, I need to look internally and to define what is going to bring me joy, what joy looks like for me in my life. What are my values? Am I living aligned to those things? If we don't take the time to actually engage in those conversations, then we are going to constantly seek the more money or more power or more businesses or more acquisitions or whatever it is that the businesses look at. So it's just amazing that this product like delves into all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of product, is Quimby a protocol and a technology product, a combination? What is the foundation?
I'll tell you what it is today.
Great.
And I will tell you what it likely is going to evolve to be.
Cool.
And that's the founder life. I am very attached to the mission. I always say, and it's one of the things that I learned in my mindfulness practices, you can define the what, you can declare the what and put your best effort towards it, but to not be too attached to the how. And as humans, like we tend to get attached to the how and then we stress over it, but let the how evolve. And that's been my principle with Quimby. So today it looks like professional services and an app technology that supports those professional services, starting from somebody who is a beginner into this, then wanting to go through a transformation in a specific area of their life, and then building that into a lifestyle. So it's an app that can be used on mobile, desktop, web, now integrates into Calendar and Slack. Also a set of frameworks that we use in our professional coaching services, workshops, to take someone from awareness all the way to creating intentionally and living intentionally. I said it is evolving because we're working on a framework to help businesses run their business with an inside-out approach. Instead of it being like a separate thing, a benefit, a nice to have. What if our operating models were built in a way where inside out is like, instead of just looking at the OKRs and KPIs that are external, but we reflected internally throughout the process and went like, in this equation, we're a part of it. How are we showing up? So.
Absolutely incredible. And I think we were just talking before we started recording about how the three of us met in the arts and as artists. And I think about how people define creativity so differently for themselves. And so much of what you're saying in this moment is resonating with conversations I've had frequently with artists who are vocal coaching clients about their blocks in creativity and how that frequently comes from the need for validation from reviews, from publicity websites, from so many other things, because artists are constantly auditioning and putting themselves out there like that. And I can only think that has to be something that folks who are creating in a business environment, folks who are creating in any kind of situation like that must also feel as a block. And I can only imagine how liberating it must be for people to know, hey, there are processes, there are frameworks, there are scaffoldings out there that can help me to realize the potential that's inside of me that does not need to come from outside. Yeah. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah. Okay. I can't wait to get into it. I don't want to get on my phone.
Okay, so can we take a step back to prior to becoming a founder and a CEO of this like amazing product? What was your world like, or who were you before Quimby?
Before this role? Mm-hmm. Who am I? Is an existential question. Let's not dive into that.
That's right. That's very
but by education, like I've done a master's in computer science. That's why I came to the US from India. I did my bachelor's in India. Started as a software engineer. Then I've played various roles, 10 plus years in B2B tech space, from software engineer to product manager, product owner, project manager, DevOps. The one theme that was constant, I think, throughout my work, it was in a semiconductor space, so it was not at all related to psychology or any of this, was I had the opportunity to work at a place where people were, like the culture was really good, people were really good. I almost took it for granted until I left. I didn't realize. I was like, oh, it's not all everywhere like this, but people were really kind. So I saw the firsthand impact of psychological safety, of working with kind people, and then growth-minded people. And I always loved connecting customers to solutions. It wasn't enough for me. That's why actually I went into project management and product ownership. I loved the technology we were working on, and I wanted it to serve a real need, and I wanted to talk to customers. So that's been a theme before Quimby. And then I got into mindfulness. It was from a need of mine. It's not something I was like, oh, I should do mindfulness. That'd be cool. I was told I was depressed, and it was surprising for me. I was high performing. I was socializing with my friends, and yet I broke down in parking lots of Walmart. I was like, what is going on? And through therapy, traditional therapy, I learned that there was a lot of grief from my dad's passing away when I was 8. I hadn't processed, but now I had never talked about it. But now I celebrate his life. I can cut a cake for his birthday. Like, I loved him so much. Like, why can't I talk about it? And that got me into mindfulness. Therapy helped me. But what really helped me personally was like going deeper into my psyche through mindfulness meditation, whether it's meditation, silent meditation retreats in Denver, 4 days, or just every single day doing one meditation after another. I started realizing there's a lot more in the world than I see. I'm not going to the meta, but I'm limiting myself through my senses. And when I access those things, like I started transforming, I started learning how I can change my mind, my emotions, my thought processes. And that's the second role, where I started volunteering for the organization I was working with. I coached a lot of people through that, but it was all volunteer while I still had my job. And then I started a side hustle called Mindful Use of Technology. I realized how, because I got into some energy work, I was doing all sorts of things. Yeah. I realized how technology was impacting me. And this is before pandemic. So I switched to a flip phone for 2 years. It's detoxing from everything. And again, the product person in me was like, how do we turn this into a workshop? So we held workshops, me and my friend held workshops at companies like Amazon, Goodyear, USTA, United States Tennis Association, just bringing in these concepts of how do you be mindful, but with your technology usage and consumption. And then the last iteration of that, and that was a side hustle. I still had my job. I got into some accelerators, at which point I had to decide, like, if I'm working all my weekends and evenings doing this, am I going to just, let me just do this? Yeah. So then Quimby came about. So
that's amazing. Yeah, you had to ask yourself, like, how am I doing? How am I feeling? What's happening in my body? And how do I make that decision so I'm not overworking myself, right?
Yeah. It wasn't even, it's interesting, when I look back, I really didn't feel I was overworking. It was just driving from, like, it's one thing to know, and it's like to go back. I've hit those points, like, at least especially in the last year. But at that time, it wasn't overworking. It was just like passion driving me.
Yeah.
But it was like I could do so much more with more time. Yeah. That was the thought. And then I got into a program which required me to give 40 hours. It was a minority accelerator based out of Austin, DeVink. Love them. Shout out to DeVink here. at that point, it was like I literally didn't have 40 more hours to give to another program, do the side hustle, and have my full-time job.
Yeah.
So it almost like I believe like when you evolve internally, the situations around you change and they will present opportunities to you where the decisions become obvious. So that's kind of what happened.
Well, you just mentioned, that wasn't a driver for you to feel, I'm going to use the term burnout. You didn't use that term burnout, but I'm using the term burnout. But you did say that has happened a couple of times over this past year.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. At the time, I wouldn't classify it as burnout. Like burnout is scientifically, it's like your engagement is high and your exhaustion is high. Right? If you do the survey of burnout, it's like they'll map you. It's like where are you on the engagement as well as exhaustion. You could be really engaged in your job, but like really tired. And then, or you could be really tired and not engaged. Like it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
But last year, especially as a founder, I think stress, I think I'm lucky in that I had these practices in place, because I think otherwise, I don't know if I would have been able to center myself back easily. And it wasn't even that easy. And then second, it was the first time I was working. There was a lot of different things actually. But I would say I just hit burnout, or at least levels of tired a few times. And every time I have, I go back to my approach of like, I disconnect. I have a few things. I literally last quarter was that for me. Like I spent a month purely meditating, cold showers, yelling affirmations. It came from, sometimes it's overworking. Sometimes, but I don't think it's purely just time. Because I have thought a lot about this. Like I think about all the big movements that have happened in the world. Whether it's Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, like that's where my inspiration comes from. And I wonder, like, were they burnt out? Like they were working a lot.
Right.
So I don't think it's definitely a function of like where your physical body is. But I don't think it's purely a function of that. It's also a function of how you are engaging in the activity. For me, I'll give you an example. Last time where I got to a place where I was super stressed, I posted on social media about it too. When I did internal work, I went like, what's my input? I wasn't eating right. I wasn't working out as much. I'm likely doing things that don't align with what you called values, like my internal truth. So for me, impact was really important. But somehow I started focusing a lot more on revenue because I was going venture funding route, and I was stressing about like, what's the ROI on money? And there's nothing wrong with that. But now that was in conflict with my internal value of impact, which was taking me away. So I had to realize that I wasn't doing as many meditations. Like it's kind of like building muscles, right? If I'm taking on more work, that means I need to train myself even more. But I was doing less meditations, making the excuse that I have work. But likely I needed to be doing more. So I have more mental capacity to handle more things on my plate. I wasn't making time as much for my personal relationships, like my friends, which is important to me. So that was in conflict. So when stress happened, it felt like it was happening because I couldn't get X number of customers, hit X revenue. But I think those were stories my mind was telling me. And I personally know I have worked more hours in my previous job than I did in this time in that founder role, like in that period of burnout. So I don't think for me, at least, it was just purely a function of time. It was how I was working. I'm trying to impress somebody. I'm trying to like create if there's any level of that, what I will call like, I don't want to call it impurity. What would be the word? Influence. If there is it's not my internal truth. I'm doing it because it's influenced by something outside. I think for me, that was what caused the last layer of burnout. Before that, it was different too. Before that, I think I was in an accelerator program. So we like really pushed hard. And it was like doing that and doing this and not managing. So there had been a time where I have felt that burnout because of working too hard. What I did at that time, I just took like 2 weeks I did 4 days of silence. I don't talk, cut out all my devices, go into meditation. It's typically for me, like I have to re-gauge my input. Because either I'm putting out more than I have the capacity to, or I am doing it in the wrong way.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
One of the things that at least that's standing out to me that I feel like can seem counterintuitive is almost that need to like slow down and take a step back as you're in the thick of that busyness, so that you're able to take that inventory. And what a challenge that can be for a lot of people to say, like, you know, how do you break out of the hamster wheel that you're in order to realize exactly where you are? What is really helpful for you to kind of remind yourself that you need to do a wellness check?
For me, I mean, I think it's different for different people. You're right. Sometimes it's a relationship. Like other people will just tell you, like, you're just being too cranky. It's like, okay, I need to do a wellness check.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I use Quimby too, which is which
Good.
helps me.
That's so great.
So when it pops up and I have to say it over and over, I say a certain word or I'm on like left side of my morale and my data shows I'm trending down. So I know the data. But it's also, I think what you pointed out is sometimes we know, but we're not willing to take the time or prioritize our own wellness over the thing that we're doing. Because the perception is that the thing we're doing is more important than how we're feeling. Which, again, I don't think there's a right or wrong here, but then at least acknowledging that I'm the one who's not prioritizing it gives you the choice and the power to prioritize it if you want to. But if you go, I'm not feeling well, but I'm busy, we can phrase I'm busy as I'm busy, or we can phrase it as like I'm choosing to do X, Y, and Z, even though I'm not feeling well, because I think that is more important to me. And then one day when feeling at peace, feeling happier becomes more important to you, then you know that you have a choice. Because I think you're right. Like most of us are trained to do the thing and stay in the loop. And I'm the culprit to that as well. But after a few times of going through the process, whether it's burnout, whether it was depression, and coming out of it because of these practices, for me, it has become a way of being that, like if I know if I go too far, I'll be too far out of my center. And it's not for feelings. It's more for just like my practices, my mindfulness practices, my spiritual practices are so important to me that I will prioritize it.
Now, there was a term that you have used a couple of times now that is psychological safety. And I'm interested to know, what does that mean, maybe for you, but also for Quimby? What is psychological safety?
And I think we talked about it on the panel too. Leslie has a formal definition of it than I do.
I love it.
I mean, it's defined as safety, especially in a working environment, in a team, as where you can learn openly. You know that you can trust the people around you. You're given the opportunity to grow. Like if we think about ourselves, like it's not even that complicated, right? Like when we learn, even as kids, we fall, we learn, we get up. We learn by failing. I don't think there's another way to learn. Like I think you have to do it, you fail, and then you learn it. But when there's a condition that you're not allowed to fail, especially I think when it comes to our mind and mental health, that's one of the problems that happens is like we're not allowed to openly say the bad thoughts. So there's no feedback loop. It just stays in our head. But having the ability to, like having the trust that there's a space where I can express myself, learn from it. I'm not just like going and venting. That's not what I mean. But like I can learn from the space and have people who are supportive, whose intention is like non-judgment. To me, that's what psychological safety is. And especially I think when we're coaching people, that's our job, is to create a safe space, because likely they don't have access to another safe space.
Yeah. Intention is non-judgment.
Right. Oh, right.
That's a big one.
When you're working with organizations or either choosing organizations to engage with or organizations are coming to you, what is a thread that kind of ties all of them together? And I'm just going to start there. I've got a follow-up question, but what is something that you're seeing in these organizations that are engaging with, okay, we want to be an organization that works inside out?
I think typically that's our product market fit. So if I can figure that out, hold on.
Yeah, this is opportunity for.
But what I have noticed is that typically there's a leader in that organization who understands, has gone through an experience at some point in their life, where they understand the value of like how I show up is going to impact the outcome. How my people are like, that's culture first organizations. Like they understand that their people and the culture is directly going to impact the business and revenue. Mm-hmm. So that's the trend. It's typically there is a leader in the organization, and the more senior up they are, the higher the probability that there are more leaders like that in the organization.
Influence, right? If they have a harder arm and influence in the organization, it's probably helpful too.
Yeah, because culture really is defined by a lot of like, what does the company value? Mm-hmm. And if the leaders value a certain thing, those are the things that tend to be promoted. Those are the things that tend to be appreciated more in the company. So slowly it kind of becomes the culture. Mm-hmm. And typically if there's a leader who realizes that if I care about my people and if I am kind to them, like how am I showing up every day? If they understand that and genuinely care for the people, that irrespective of Quimby using any product, it's a small company. But if I am good to my people, then the results are going to be good. If they understand that at some level, the likelihood that other people in their company understand that too is high because they likely hire similar mindset people.
Right. Yeah. And when you encounter an organization that maybe lacks psychological safety or lacks somebody who understands the importance of this internal work and they engage it with Quimby, how do you go about engaging with that company? Like, what does that process look like for you when you're like, ooh, there's some things here that could probably be worked on?
The honest answer to that is they end up not being our clients. Like I wish I had figured out a way to change that. I think that's been learning for me. That's been a growth for me is serve the people who are there and can't force people to like feel a certain way, be a certain way. So there have been times where we onboard a company, we'll do our pilot program, and it becomes obvious to me that the culture doesn't align with Quimby's principles. I don't have to do anything. They'll typically not sign up for a year-long contract, or they'll not continue. They'll not value the things that we're providing.
Right.
And then there are tools out there that would match their values more, and that would be better for their business. So I don't think there's anything wrong. No judgment on my end for them. It's just that what we're providing isn't valuable to them.
Yeah.
So they typically end up just not subscribing. Yeah. I haven't figured out a way to change their mind yet. I think one thing that I have noticed is that leaders who have a different mindset like that, you can't like preach and go like, this is how you should run your organization. Yeah. Because who am I to, right? Like, but if they go through an experience themselves, it doesn't have to be around their business. Like somebody I was coaching, it was a founder. I was actually coaching them on the relationship. That's why I'm like, I love the work that y'all do. It doesn't have to be about their business. But then it clicks that, how I show up my relationship actually changes the other person's response to me, and now I have a better relationship. Then they start applying the same concepts to their business. So like this one person I was coaching on the relationship actually is now literally doing meditations to kick off their company retreat.
Wow.
But it's experiential. It's a slower process.
Yeah. I was thinking about that in terms of like, it's part of that lived experience. And, everybody coming in with like whatever their background is, that's how they're showing up. And like earlier when you had mentioned, when you're able to see the results in terms of like, oh, I was told I was bipolar, but now I'm seeing how my actions are aligned with that like there are things that people have not been able to wake up to yet. And how, I think it's when is that wake up going to happen for them, and how we can't necessarily come in, like we can help in that process, but like if someone's not ready to wake up yet, they're going to this is a terrible metaphor.
No. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's like that Matrix moment of like, do I take the red pill or do I take the blue pill? And then like some people are just like, I'm just going to take
this
the blue
one.
pill.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Just for right now, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I still take that pill, right? Like there are days where I just go like, today I'm going to just react to things and I go, okay, that's mine to work on next time.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. I love it.
It's true. Still stuck in the Matrix.
Yeah. Exactly. Sometimes it's safer there, sometimes it's safer, but
sometimes we need that break a little bit too, in terms of like, it is a lot of work to be mindful. Like ultimately it's really good and it can be more sustainable, but it does take work. And sometimes we just need to be I've never seen the Matrix. So it's like, are you in the Matrix when you don't wake up?
You take the pill and then you wake up in the Matrix.
Okay.
And then, the Matrix is the fake place, right? And the real world is when you take the pill.
Sometimes you just need to be in the fake place for a day.
Matrix. The real place or the other one is the real one? No.
Should I say it backwards?
Oh, see, this is where it gets you.
That's
the question.
That's the point.
We'll never know. We will never know.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to say like, I just need to stay like in whatever version is that it's like, it is too hard to be mindful today. And I think striking that balance too. And I think like having a level of awareness, and I think this is so much of what your program does, that like, if you keep checking in, and there can be those days where it's like, I'm just opting not to engage. But if you continue to check in and you're able to see, wow, I've opted not to engage for a week and a half, what else might be happening right now that's making it to where I feel like I can't keep engaging. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So something that's outside of you, that I think too, like as someone who does seek out therapy and I believe in it, like there are things in conversation that I subscribe to fully, but I know of people where they are more data driven and analytical, where they might not necessarily subscribe to like, I'm going to talk this out, but if they can see something presented to them, how much I think that then can start to wake them up.
Yeah, that I agree. I think different things work for different people. That's where like services come in and app comes in, or just serve in the way that they want to be served and helped in. Yeah.
What does your team look like?
Oh, yes.
Team is evolving. But it's me full-time, another person full-time. And then we have an intern in India, and then a couple of people who just help out. And then our advisors are people who are very mission-driven as well, very aligned. So they help out whenever they can, especially like with brainstorming and brain power. Yeah, awesome. It's a very small team, and likely going to be smaller this year. We'll see. Evolving.
Yeah. Well, and how do you, when you're thinking about, because again, you've talked a lot about working internal first, right? And so as you're building this team, like how are you thinking about bringing on people, but then also kind of emulating the very thing that you're trying to teach other companies to do? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So one of the, going back to what I care about is the mission, right? Team is a way to get there, because when you have more people, you can, like the bigger the vision, the more people. So sometimes it purely looks at collaboration. And I have someone who's helping me, for example. He's a founder of his own company, and he is like this amazing person, but he just cares about it. And he's been helping me with some of the leads and sales side of things. And that can be the team, right? And that just looks like that. Yeah. So I'm not very attached to what like team traditionally needs to look like. And then as long as we're accomplishing the things that we're setting out to do. Mm-hmm. And then second is what I have noticed is the right people show up at the right time. Like I have had customers who have volunteered to help just because it had an impact on their team. And she's like, there's no way I would have been able to afford this person. Like, no way. She's an amazing designer. And then another person I was trying to sell Quimby to for his team, and he's like, you know what, I want to work on this. I'm passionate about this. So, and then when things are changing in the mission, like the way we're doing things, like new people show up. So the way I think about the team, answer your question, is the framework that I use in coaching, I use it for myself, which is how am I showing up? Who am I? What am I doing? And what are the things that, like, instead of going, I have this, then I'll do this, then I'll feel this. In our framework, we reverse it to, I feel this, hence I'm doing this. And as a result of that, I've created this. So I use that as my vision and I match it to, like, as long as I'm showing up that way with kindness, with love, with strength, which whatever my vision is, and then I'm doing the right things, the rest is more like on the people. When I will hire from that lens that it's people who align with those values, who align with mission. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. I still show up the same way. And I think that's, at least so far, that's what I've realized that's the best I can do.
It's great. It's really great.
It's incredible. I can't wait to engage with, I want to see it all in action. It's really amazing.
Oh, thank
Truly.
you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm imagining all of this, and I was thinking not to take us back too much to the arts and performing and things, but it's very interesting because there are, frequently acting teachers and coaches and theorists will talk about acting approaches as being either inside out or outside in.
100%.
And going back to, I think, what you were saying before, certain people are attracted to those more maybe specialist type folks who really subscribe to one approach, and they really might study with these folks pretty exclusively. Other folks are attracted to exploring approaches from both of those camps very intentionally. And it's really, I think, part of our work as coaches is to help folks along the journey of discerning when might be a time that they want to explore one or the other, or, that sort of funneling, that sort of mirroring and referral circumstance of what we do, I think is one of the most valuable aspects of coaching in some ways is, it can be, we want to help with information and we want to help with all of that, but also, and I think this sounds like so much of what you have kind of captured is we can also serve this function of saying there are lots of options for you. Maybe what I do is an option for you, and maybe it will be an option for you at some point, but there are also other ways. And so inside out, outside in. It's just really special, I think, to not be so subscribed to one way of doing things. And that to me is a real takeaway from
we see people
hearing.
as resourceful and whole, right?
Yes.
So the opportunity is how do we create as many opportunities for them to be whole the way that they need or choose or want to be.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That has been actually a very big lesson for me over the last year. One of the things I realized that was causing stress was I started it because it impacted me. I wanted to pay it forward. I was volunteering. My intention, like when I was totally volunteering, was just like unconditional love. I would just show up. I don't teach you anything. Mine is to create that space. That's how I was showing up when I was volunteering. And I just was driven by passion. I was enjoying it. And the more I read and the more I got into the startup world, I started either hearing stories or subscribing to stories, or maybe I was reading too much research. And at one point, I don't know when, I took on the responsibility to make the entire world happy. I don't know when, because I was like, even if I still am obsessed with this question. I can become the best coach. I can have the best app. Is that genuinely going to solve the problem of burnout for people or solve the problem of stress? I don't think the answer is yes. I think humans help humans, and more examples and stories help each other. But I can't imagine like suddenly an app comes in or like a coach comes in where the world will be changed, right? Like apps exist, coaches exist. I can build a great business by that. So I have to be real. So I was feeling really bogged down by the idea of like not being able to serve everyone, make people happy. And no matter what I do, app or coaching, I haven't solved the real problem that I care about. And what you just said, like, really resonated, because one of the things I realized after meditating and doing a lot of reflection was I can't give what I don't have. So one, just be happy. And
Sure.
If I'm happy, I end up genuinely giving. That's my nature. Whatever everybody's built, like people will do a certain thing when I'm happy, I tend to give. And then second was just everybody's whole. Like I don't need, like, they don't need me.
Yeah.
It's like a very egoistic way to think about yourself, to go, they need me, I can make them happy.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
if I truly believe, like, I've got in me, everybody's got me, then I can serve. It's a great opportunity. It's a privilege to serve, but they don't need me to be happy.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And that was a relief, actually. Like what you were saying, I was like, that was a relief for me. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What's next for Quimby?
There are 3 things that we're focused on around the tech stack and iterating fast, building more integrations, then building a framework, and then coaching more founders. So we just got into a partnership, like I'm an ambassador for Founder Mental Health Pledge, which is amazing. So as I'm coaching more founders, building a community of founders who are wanting to create inside out, as well as a framework that businesses can operate in with or without coaching. And that's just like you have Agile, you have, that's the product tech person. You have Agile, you have Scrum, you have OKRs, KPIs. What might a framework look like when people are creating
Love
inside out?
that. When you figure that out, call us.
I'm already piloting it with a few founders that like we track things a different way in their business, and I'm already piloting it. So, and I'm working on documenting that.
We'll stay in contact.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
All right. Well, it was so good talking to you again. I love everything that you're doing. It's just
100%.
really, really amazing.
Incredible.
You know, you may feel like you're not changing the world, but maybe kind of you are. A little bit.
Yeah, but I feel like there's the thing about like you're changing someone's world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for
Right?
that one person, it's
Exactly.
everything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the world is changing. Respectful.
true, too.
I am changing.
Yeah.
We're all here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying the journey.
That's
but
great. Yeah.
thank you for having me. This was a wonderful conversation. As I was sharing things, I was like, oh, even I wasn't aware of that's how I thought about it. So very
cool.
insightful question.
do?
Wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
what-
That's
what we
what
do
we're
for
doing.
each other,
Yeah,
right?
present and
Oh my
mindful.
gosh. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us at the As You Are podcast. And please subscribe on all channels. And please visit quimby.com
.app.
app.
Dot app.
Quimby.app.
Yeah. Or you
To
can
check
go to
out more.
sumedhaganjoo.com too.
Perfect. Thank you.